All right. Hello and welcome in, everyone. My name is Hong Min, and I'm part of the Careers and Professional Development team here at WGU. We're so glad you're joining us for another Career Quest session. It's been an incredible run of topics with many more exciting ones to come. Thank you all so much for being here today. I'm especially excited for today's session because we're joined by Erin Ward, who is a recruiter at Emerson. Aaron's someone that I had the chance to connect with over the years, and I follow him on LinkedIn. He's an incredible, thoughtful leader on early career hiring and helping candidates to advocate for themselves, especially when it comes to salary conversations, which is today's topic. A little bit about Emerson. They're a global leader in technology and engineering, and today Aaron will be sharing insights on compensation conversation. He's got a very fun, interactive presentation. So with that, Aaron, I will turn things over to you.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure being able to kind of present and kind of give some, I guess, helpful feedback or helpful information to students that are looking to navigate whether it may be just their first role into their career field or their second or third. It's always kind of nice to give some feedback on that. This topic I really love just because it's a fun topic and it's one that a lot of people really shy away from. And I don't know why, because I think this is one that anybody will use at some point in their life. So I think it's one that you need to be able to ask the right questions and understand how to navigate it and not maybe avoid some missteps along the path here. So I try to make it fun, and the reason why I try to make it fun like this is where it'll be a little bit more interactive, essentially. What we'll do is we'll make a Price is Right themed game of it. I'll answer questions and kind of set things up, but pretty much I'll put you in three different scenarios of different job offers that I'll give to you, right? And I'd like you to either, I guess, either comment in the chat or maybe unmute yourself and it kind of walk me through whether you'd accept that offer or ask questions. Because again, even once you receive an offer, you always can ask questions about the offer. There's nothing wrong with that. That back and forth communication is perfectly normal in the offer stage. But first of all, let me move to the second slide and kind of go into it a little bit more. So basically the objective of this is just to kind of get you a little bit more used to the all around process of how to navigate offers, how to navigate, rebuttal offers, whether that may be a counter offer or different types of things you can ask for in that, not just necessarily asking for a higher salary, but there's other things that you can ask for in this instead of just straight up compensation. So you got to keep that in mind too when you're navigating this too, and just making you feel more comfortable throughout the process when you're going through this, because I know a lot of people, they just don't have a lot of practice doing this. So it's always good just to kind of make it a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more fun. That way it makes a little bit less pressure getting you used to it. So we'll keep things rolling here though. So again, guess the salary. Basically, I will give you out a salary range for these. Again, you got to kind of guess whether this is a good salary or not, whether you would accept the offer or whether you'd come back with a rebuttal. Again, I'll kind of give you the salary as well as general benefits for that particular position. And I'll even tell you where you'll be moving to and things like that. To kind of preface it a little bit, I'll tell you all these salaries. I kind of wanted to keep it where most likely a lot of you probably wouldn't be from. So I picked Missouri for this information. I pulled it from their state data. It would be a little bit old because I pulled it from last year's data. So keep that in mind. But I pulled it from there to get the most averages for entry level roles as well, to kind of give you a little information leading into this. Entry level, not mid level, not 10, 20 years into their career, but all entry level. Okay, to kind of give you some context there. So one more thing before we kind of get started, just remember to, comment, try to think through this. Does this make sense? And remember, it is Midwest. It's not necessarily I picked New York or maybe California. So you got to remember that the salaries might be a little bit lower than what maybe different regions would be. So be aware of that. But the first one I want to get started with is a lawyer. So I'm going to frame this up. Here's some basic job description for you, which if you want, you can read through it. But essentially, I'm going to give you a scenario here and then throw out a number and see, does this sound like something that would be a good entry-level salary? So what I'll say is, let's see, let's put it at 85,000 would be your starting wage. Okay, you'll have 2 weeks of paid vacation. You will be located in Kirksville, Missouri for this position, which is a very small town in Missouri. Well, it's uh, relatively small. Um, you'll have a 401k match of 3%. So whatever you put in, they'll match up to 3% of that. This has the opportunity of you moving into a partnership role. It's a 10-year, I guess, track for that. What I'll say is I'll leave it at that for now. Feel free to ask questions where you can ask, will the job offer this or that? We can get into a little bit nitty gritty there, but otherwise think, does this sound like something that's fair? And try not to Google it. I know it's easy with us being remote to Google it, but try to think through it a little bit and try to use critical thinking skills. And then I'll give it maybe about 5 minutes. And then I'll actually ask people, hey, can you come off the mic and kind of talk through whether you think this should be a fair offer or not, or whether you would accept or decline the offer. Does that sound good? And again, feel free to take yourself off mute or I guess comment as well. I'll see if I can pull up the comments maybe as well
Yeah,
for this.
we do have a comment here in the chat. I have a further question. It's a small town. Is there a stipend for gas transportation, or are my
Ooh.
clients coming to me?
Very good question. As a lawyer, it depends on the situation, but most of the time the client will come to you. But yes, as a lawyer, sometimes you might have to visit the client depending on whether it's if you're a type of lawyer that covers it would be for, let's say, criminal lawsuits. You might have to meet them at a jail or something, maybe if you're defending them, let's say. But for the most part, they'll come to you. But good question. But yes, if you had to commute, you would be get a stipend for travel cost.
Next question here. What type of attorney?
Oh, good. All good questions. Again, you want more context, right? Let's say, let's do a divorce attorney, just because that sounds terrible. It sounds like not a fun job. Let's do that, just because that'd be interesting.
Awesome. And the next one here is the firm small or large?
It's going to be a small firm because it's Kirksville. Let's say it only has 3 partners, okay, that own it. And the track for that would be 10 years because that's the first partner would like to retire after 10 years. So that's your track for if you're a good lawyer, everything works out, you can have part ownership in it.
All great questions. Then that's all we have right now in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't mention any health benefits, including the package. Can I have more information about the
Yeah,
plan to make sure
good
it's a
question.
good match
Yeah,
for me?
great things always to ask. I love it when people get more into the benefits. So I mentioned the retirement of 2 weeks, and I mentioned already the 401k, but health benefits, let's say it's pretty basic. They'll have 3 tiers of health benefits. One's more on the cheaper end, but that's more for, let's say, if you're single. They'll have a higher deductible one in the middle. That is more for if you want to make sure that you can cover higher medical costs. Maybe the deductible is higher, but it'll cover more of it. And then the third one's more for someone that has a lot of health issues. You're going to pay more out of pocket initially again, but ultimately the coverage is going to be more more holistically. It'll cover a lot more of the surgeries and things like that. So pretty basic there. I'll keep it there for that. Again, let's say they offer pet insurance. Let's throw that out because I know some companies offer that. Let's also say they offer mental health visits up to 3 a month, not just for you, but also for your direct family or spouse. Let's say that. That's a good one I think to add. And eye care, dental, same basic stuff there, nothing too crazy. I think that's what I'll say it has for coverage. Okay.
Good question. One more here. You said there was an opportunity to advance into partner. Is that outlined in the contract with timelines, steps, milestones,
Ooh.
etc.?
Great question. Again, if something like this, you're in this situation like this, you want to make sure you get it in writing. So if someone just says off the cuff, like during the interview, you have the potential to get up to partner level in 10 years, you'll want to get that in writing. So for this particular position, it's not in writing. So it's good that you bring that up. Great.
All very good questions. And I think that's all we have.
Okay, I'll give it like 1 more minute. And then if people either want to comment whether they think they'll go for it or not, that'd be great. And then we can kind of talk through. I'll kind of show you what the numbers are there and say whether it's a good deal or not. Okay.
We got a comment from Sarah. I think that proposed salary is crazy low. Sheen says negotiate.
Negotiate. Oh, and that's good. And okay, so it's 115. So let's say, what's your rebuttal? What would you negotiate back? Okay, so you want to negotiate. What do you think would be a fair offer? Okay, let me see that, so that way I can kind of see your context and what you're thinking. I will warn you, don't be like, hey, I want to negotiate back 200,000 and the offer was 85K. That's not at all in the ballpark. But let's see what people do. This is fun.
We got a comment here. Is there any additional compensation for how much you win for your clients?
Oh, that's great, because as a lawyer, yes, that could be a potential. Great question there. Let's say a 3% off the top of any client that you represent that you're gonna get for the fees. So if you win a case, you get 3% of the earnings there, because it is a divorce lawyer. So if you win the divorce case, you get 3% of the total.
We got a comment from Sheen. I think the pay should be up to 10K. Let's see. Up about
100K maybe?
10K. Yep. I think 10 more
Okay.
K is what they're
Oh, 10,
proposing.
okay.
3 weeks of PTO, 40 hours sick pay, 40
Okay.
volunteer hours. Okay,
Oh,
$100 for monthly gas voucher. HSA employer paid 300 deposit yearly. Um,
I would
Louis
say,
here says, oh, go ahead.
oh, yeah, no, keep going on, because I'll wait to
Oh,
actually
we
answer
got,
that. Otherwise,
yep,
because it's
we
going to be
got
fun.
one more. Yep, we got one more here. I would ask them to raise the offer by 10% to reflect my unique background. I am better than the average lawyer given my education and my experience.
Okay. Yeah, I would say for that one, the first one I would say is right in the ballpark, actually. The extra 10K for it would be 95K, which is actually right in the average for a starting lawyer in Missouri. So that was really good that they caught that. So right at the average, which is good, because if you're in a smaller town, generally speaking, you're probably not going to make as much for a lawyer, but that's in a good starting point, is that average range. For the PTO and stuff, I already said like 2 weeks. So I think that's already kind of in line for that. I didn't mention any HSA or health savings plans, so they don't have any. But that's a great question to ask, because some companies do help contribute to it, a portion, which can be really nice, because that's extra cost savings for your medical bills. But essentially, I would say, yes, the first one would be a good one, where they would come back and say, yes, that's a fair offer. That's right around where we'd be looking. Other questions, or did anybody else comment on what they'd maybe, I guess, rebuttal back, or whether they would accept it?
Let's see. I think the two comments are the two negotiations that we have so far.
Okay, no, that's good. I'll tell you the range at the very end. I also show you all the ranges, but generally speaking, the low end is 77,000. Uh, the average is $95,516, and then on the high end is 118,000 per year. And again, this is just averages and for entry level lawyers in Missouri. These are not lawyers that have been in it for 5, 10 years. So keep that in mind as well. And it's going to be averaging from small towns to large towns. So keep that in mind there. But that's a great example of different things that you can kind of use to leverage. But also think more outside the box. Even think about, like, if I'm putting you in a small town, think about maybe commuting costs in terms of relocations. That's something that's really highly negotiable. So keep that in mind. That's really common to negotiate. Also keep in mind maybe further education opportunities too. Maybe it's not straight up compensation, but maybe if you want to go back for further education, they might help pay for it. So keep that in mind too when you're negotiating. But let's go into another scenario. I like to pick some higher end scenarios for fun. So a doctor. This one's going to be a general doctor, just to keep it simple. So it's not a surgeon, because again, if you're a specialized doctor, it's going to be higher wages. Let's try to make this a little bit more generalized. But again, it'd be entry level doctor. Again, we'll keep it to Missouri because that's what I kind of looked up for Missouri. Again, that keeps it simple. But let's pick let's say, we'll pick a college town. We'll pick Mizzou or Columbia, Missouri, where Mizzou, the University of Mizzou, is located there. So it's a college town, mid-sized town. But let's say the offer would be, let me look at what I got. Let's say the yearly wage would be 200K, 200K for it. And let's say you have a sign-on bonus of 25,000 and you get 3 weeks paid vacation, let's say. On top of that, you would be on call 2 weekends out of each month. So every other weekend you're on call. Otherwise, your set schedule would be 10-hour shifts. So you have 5 10s, and then you would be on call. So potential of being called in Saturday and Sunday on the weeks that you are on call. So keep that in mind. And it is a college town, so you might get called in quite a bit if there's a lot of college students getting into trouble, so to speak. You know what I mean? So let's say 401k match would be 5%. And then let's say there's a health savings plan that they do offer, and they match or they contribute $200 to that yearly. Okay. I think that's the main stuff I wanted to cover. Is there other questions about it, or other comments or anything that we can kind of cover while we think about this? Otherwise, we'll give it like 5 minutes for people to think through. Hopefully people have been writing it down a little bit, jotting down notes and thinking, oh, maybe this is good, maybe this is bad. Especially the college town thing. I like to throw that in there because that can play a big role, especially for a doctor with college students, and how much trouble they can get into.
All right, we got a question here. Is there specialized health insurance offered through the job for myself and my family, standard with healthcare professions?
Oh, it's specialized. Usually not. Actually, oddly enough, a lot of times healthcare professionals get not the best insurance. It's funny. It's kind of hit or miss. But no, there's not necessarily a specialized one. The only specialized one would be maybe if you work for the federal government. So if it was like a VA hospital, you would have federal benefits, which are by far probably the best benefits you're going to have anymore. They're fantastic. But again, the pay would probably be lower. So general benefits, nothing out of the ordinary there. But good question. Because you would think, right? You would think a doctor, oh, they're
Mhm.
going to have amazing benefits. And it's like, well, actually, it's more just kind of standard there.
All right. Would I be participating with a specific hospital or college?
Mm. It would be the hospital there. It would not be a college hospital or anything like that. So it is just a hospital for the whole town. But there's the only one hospital, so it's not like there's multiple options for everyone. But yeah, good question there. Because yeah, some universities have university hospitals. Wait like another 3 minutes just to give people some time to think it through.
How much support can I expect to receive from medical interns?
Oh, that's a good question. Never had anybody ask that. Yeah, because that's pretty common to have people on their rotations. Let's say in a calendar year, you always have two rotating residencies. So two essential interns basically in a calendar year that you'll oversee. And they'll work full 40-hour weeks, let's say. So you'll have that much of, I guess, assistance, you could say, however you have to divvy it out.
All right. I don't think we have any other questions at this time. Folks
Okay.
might be all for the $200,000 salary.
I would say if either now you can start thinking about whether you want to send a rebuttal or you just want to accept. It's fine too. There's nothing wrong with accepting. And then I can kind of walk through what the ranges are and whether you think that's a good one. But otherwise, I'll give you some time to start typing for that.
We got feedback here from Sarah. That seems like a pretty decent salary right out the gate without having to negotiate. If it was
Mm.
me, I'd probably try to work one less weekend a month.
Okay, yeah. And that's fine to ask. I think that'd be perfectly fine to ask, especially if you have two interns. Maybe you could even say, hey, can
Mhm.
they take one of the weekends always or something to kind of off put that. Mm-hmm.
Um, one more here. I take the offer on the contingency that we can negotiate the on-call for one weekend instead of 2 weekends. Some folks like their weekends.
Okay, okay. And those are fair ones. The only problem is usually the doctors, the reason why they have higher wages is because they work a way more hours. People just don't realize that. It's odd how um, it seems like the more dangerous the profession or high skill it seems like the hours go up through the roof. It's really odd,
Mhm.
but that's usually how it is. But yeah, definitely it is worth negotiating.
Mhm.
And I don't
Never
think
hurts to
it's out of the
ask.
room. But it sounds like a lot of people like the wage, so that's good.
Yep.
I guess I will, if there's no other comments, I'll kind of break it down. So for the doctor, the range, it doesn't have a medium income, but it does have the low end and the high end. Low end was as low as 160,000 a year, and high end is as high as 298,000. Okay, so that 200,000 is right around in the middle, maybe a little bit on the lower end, but not bad because I added in that sign-on bonus of 25K. So again, that kind of offsets it a little bit. So again, not very not out of the norm, out of the ordinary. Not a bad deal overall. I didn't do anything crazy there where you'd be working like 90-hour weeks or something. So yeah, I think that'd be a good one overall. But again, relocation, don't forget about that because a lot of these jobs, you can get like a relocation stipend of like 10,000 or 25,000. And that can be huge because usually they'll write you a check for it. So how that works is they'll write you a check and usually, or they'll reimburse you. And that can help even be for a down payment on a house if you want to move to that area. Or it could just be used for your reload cost of using a moving company. But usually most of the time it's a check that kind of help cover some of the costs for you. So that can be something to kind of work in, especially for relocations. It's an easy way because companies are a little less so to negotiate salary just because salary means, well, they pay that forever, so to speak, if you say. But a reload is just a one-time payment. So it's easier for longer term to be like, yeah, we can write them a $10,000 check once instead of adding 10,000 every year for it. So that's an easier one to negotiate, especially for entry level roles. That's a lot easier.
And then we have a comment here. If I was coming from a good place, I might try and negotiate a stipend for continued learning at the college or to tuition reimbursement.
Oh yeah, yeah, that would be good because I think doctors are required to have so many hours of continuous learning. So that'd be good to make sure, are they covering that cost or do you have to? Great question because why not have them covered if you have to do it for your job anyways? So yeah, great. That would be good to bring up. Awesome. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll move on to kind of a fun one. This is my favorite one that I'd like to cover.
We have a question from Sarah. What if you try to negotiate and they flat out reject everything you asked for?
That's okay. Again, don't think that just because you do, let's say, a rebuttal offer of, let's say for that doctor one is 200,000, you come back and say, hey, could you move that up a little bit to 210 just because I feel like more comfortable at that, and then they'll probably say, hey, we're gonna have to check and get back to you. They come back and say, hey, we're just unable to meet that amount of money for the offer. That's perfectly fine. All you need to say is, hey, can I take a little bit more time to think about it? Um, because it doesn't mean they're canceling the offer by saying, hey, we can't go up any higher. It just means the offer stays as is. So there's not really a negative there. It just gives you more information of, oh, I can't get any more money. So what's the big deal, right? If they did, let's say, cancel the offer, that's probably a bad sign for the company. I would say not really a good indicator. Usually they'll just tell you, hey, we just can't, and then they'll leave it to where you need to make that decision, yay or nay, kind of. So don't be worried about that. I know a lot of people get concerned when it's talking about money, but nothing wrong with asking. Okay, the worst they can say is no. So cool. Otherwise, let's move on to the next one because this one's a little bit different because the last two are salary based. This one will be hourly. So a lot of you are college students, so let's go into a bartender. We'll keep it in Mizzou just because it's a college town. So again, it's in Missouri, but it's a bartender position. So this is going to be a little bit different. Let's say you're working part-time because you're a student. Let's say you're studying, working part-time. What they would offer you will be per hour. So let's say $17 per hour will be the pay rate. You do receive tips and you don't have to split them. If you get tips from for serving the drinks, you will keep the tip directly. So you don't have to worry about that. On top of that, you do have to work Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are required for your shifts. Besides that, you're good. You just work those 3 days or the 3 nights, and the shift starts at let's say 8 p.m. and it goes to 2 a.m. Let's say that's your shift. Okay, for that. There's no health insurance, there's no retirement, nothing like that. It's a straight pay and compensation, pretty much is straightforward there. Okay. Any questions so far?
Is there a bar back? Is there security at the door? Are tips in cash, card, or mix?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Um, let's say there's a bouncer at the door because it's maybe a club, maybe. So you don't have to worry about that. So the rowdiness you don't really have to deal with. The bouncer will take care of that. It does accept cash and card, so both are perfectly acceptable depending on what the students prefer. I think that's answers to most of the questions. Was there something I missed?
One more here. Once I start/finish training, will my schedule be set in stone or can it change days/times week to week?
Let's say it all's up to whether you want to switch shifts. So let's say you want to pick up more shifts. You just got to talk to the other bartenders and see if you can switch shifts. Okay, let's do it that way because that's pretty common for jobs like this. Otherwise, that's kind of going to be more set for you. Okay.
Next one here. Are there any special events on the calendar for the bar during my shift?
Yes, it just depends on how it falls. So let's say your shift falls for St. Patty's Day. Yes, that'd be a special event that you're just scheduled to work, okay? Or any other type of holiday that just falls on your scheduled work day, then yes,
All very good questions.
very good actually. I like that, especially the holiday one, because uh, definitely those holidays would probably be busier, so potential
Mm,
with tips. Give it maybe just a couple minutes, let people think, and then start at putting, I guess, what you would want to do in the chat, whether it be take the offer or any other questions, or come back and ask for more money or more or something. Let's see. Let's see what you kind of decide.
All right, we got one here. I negotiate 21 hours for special events and the rate they suggested for normal shifts.
So 21 hours, you said? Is that correct?
$21 for an hour for special events.
For special events. Now that's an
Mhm.
interesting take, actually. Um, because yeah, technically it'd probably be a higher volume, so you could potentially make more. I would say they would rebuttal back and let's say because the initial offer was 17. Let's say they say, what about 19? Meet in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Because their counter offer would be you're gonna make more in tips anyways.
Mm-hmm. Another question here. Will I have to tip out the bouncer/barbacks and other non-bartender staff?
No, whatever tips that are given directly to you, you keep yours. That's how it works. Great question. All good questions, yeah. Anybody has a final decision yet? Would you take it? Would you not?
They're thinking. They're thinking.
This one kind of surprised me when I did the research on the low and top ends. Like, it was actually kind of interesting.
All right. Take the $19 an hour if there's a restaurant in the bar and I get standard staffed meals.
Okay, okay. Let's say yes, there's a restaurant. Let's say you get a half price meal. That's how it works. They don't pay
Half
for it, but
price
you get
meal.
a half price. So it is a deal, but you still gotta pay. They drive a hard bargain.
I take it.
Okay, good, good, good.
Always negotiating.
Mm,
You came to the right session here. A pro
right.
negotiator.
Okay, so I'll kind of break it down. Um, the low end's $10.14. The mid range is 18.22, and the high end is 32.27 or 32.74. So up to $32. That kind of surprised me how high it would be. I'm guessing those are probably like really high end bars or something maybe. But yeah, you're kind of in that mid range, and for a college town, that's probably even maybe high, just because usually college bars are a little bit less willing to pay as much. So not a bad deal overall. And again, it's an hourly job, so it's not like you're making a career out of it necessarily for this type of role because it is a bartender. But yeah, that was fun. It was good just to kind of see the differences there in terms of what potentially you could do. We'll do one more little scenario and then we'll kind of break down some final, like, I guess, questions and kind of some final thoughts. But we'll do one more just because we are an engineering company, so I would like to discuss an engineering role. So we'll real quick do that one, and we'll kind of go from there. But the engineering role, I'll just kind of throw it in as an extra one because I usually just keep this as a bonus if we do have time. So for the engineering role, I don't have a slide for it, but essentially for the engineering role, let's say it's a mechanical engineer. This mechanical engineer would be, again, in Missouri. I took in these stats from. For this role, it'd be fresh out of college again. Mechanical role. Let's say you're getting hired into a design engineer. So you're going to be designing the products. So you're going to be using software to design the products that end up getting manufactured at your manufacturing plant. Okay, so that's the role there, the basic sense of it. For this role, we'll offer you, let's say, 87,000. 87,000 we're going to offer you with a $5,000 sign-on slash relocation bonus. And the benefits will be 3 weeks paid vacation every year, 5% match for your 401k, pet insurance. You will get dental, medical, vision. Yeah, we'll start with that. What are thoughts? What are you guys thinking? And we'll kind of go from there.
The position was a mechanical engineer. All right.
Mechanical
Question,
engineer is your degree, and the position itself would be a design engineer.
design engineer. Yes.
So you're
What is
designing
the exact title? Design engineer. Yep.
design engineer. Yep. I have a feeling they're Googling, but that's okay.
I know with engineering's, one of the popular questions would be, would their PE certifications be covered?
Oh, yep. Yep. That would be a good question to ask.
Professional engineering cert. I think that's like a couple hundred dollars. And then
Yep.
studying for it, material, all that good stuff too. We have a sold. My dog cost me a small fortune in vet bills. Great perks.
It is a great perk. There's not a lot of companies, but more are starting to implement it just because I mean, it makes sense. If a lot of people have pets, why not?
Yeah, it does add up. Let's see. Engineer in the title is worth 10 more percent than that without, that's why I'm asking. Yep, that's a good point. Engineer.
10 more percent. I would say they will not offer you 10 more percent. I can say
Another
no.
comment here. Yeah, that seems low to me for an engineer.
Mm. We'll give it like a couple more minutes. I'll let it go. And then we'll kind of see if people have any other questions or any other like, yeah, I'll take it or not take it.
I think they're thinking. I think they think engineers maybe start off a little bit higher. Let's see. Honestly, if they won't negotiate, especially around tuition reimbursement for continuing learning, I'd say thanks. Let's stay connected on LinkedIn. It was a great experience to interview.
Um,
Standing the ground.
right. I would say for tuition reimbursement, they'd be up for it, but you'd have to be in good standing after a year. Let's say the first year, they're not going to guarantee it because you have to be in good standings before you're allowed to. But they're more than happy to say, yes, as long as you're in good standing, you'd be eligible for it.
Anyone else for this engineering?
I'll give it one more minute and then I'll break it down. I should probably have some other random ones like some like under deep sea like welder or something. I should have some like really out there ones.
Unique positions.
Mm-hmm. Or change up the states. I should do that. Change up the states and
Mhm.
that'd be nice.
I think the posts will throw everyone off. But their salaries have to be super competitive, probably.
Yeah.
We got a comment here. If I brought in co-op experience, I would also negotiate higher, at least 10,000 more for salary.
Oh.
Engineers are in high demand in Michigan.
Ooh.
And
I
another
would say
comment, 80s. Sorry,
80.
another comment here, 80s is low, even in that state.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Let me kind of show you the information. So for this, for an engineering mechanical, this is again, mechanical engineer on the low end would be 64K starting. The mid-range for a mechanical engineer starting would be 75,000. And on the high end would actually be the 87,000. So again, this is entry level. You got to remember that. And you can't just Google engineer in general, because then it's going to pull in some people that are a little higher. Software engineers usually get paid more. Same with some other specialty ones. Usually get paid more, like electrical engineers. They usually get paid a little bit more starting. That can skew the data too. And also the
Mm-hmm.
state. Again, this is Missouri, so there might not be as many engineers there or as high of a demand, but there might be higher demand, let's say, for engineers in maybe one of the coasts or something where it might be like starting wage might be 105 for an entry level. So keep that in mind when you're looking. Always, when any job that you're going to, I'll kind of skip to the last couple slides here. It's okay for us to kind of skip back that key takeaways. Yeah, it would be to look at when you are looking for jobs, when you do graduate or get ready to graduate, do the search of the actual employment data for that particular state. Every state has their own uh, um, data for it, and you can pull it. So the government pulls this data. I'm not saying it's perfect, but you can critique it depending on whether it's entry level, mid level, or even advanced in their career, and that can really give you a lot more credible data. Because sometimes you just Google articles, they're not actually spreading out the data where it actually makes sense in terms of an entry level engineer compared to a engineer that's been there for 30 years. There's going to be a big difference. Okay. So having that really helps you in terms of seeing whether an offer is fair or not. Generally speaking, You can't ask too much for a rebuttal. And what I mean by that is most companies, at least large companies, there's a range for every position. And what they have to keep in mind when they're bringing people in is they can't have you come in, let's say, into that department making more than people that have been there 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 years. That's not good. So that's something you got to keep in mind too, that it kind of hamstrings the employer too, is where they got to watch how much they bring you in at, because they don't want to necessarily piss off the people that are already there. They want to make sure that they're treating everyone fair. That can be hard too. So they're juggling a lot of different moving parts there. So usually what I tell students or tell people that are graduating or in general, be careful about how much you ask more of. I would say a good rule of thumb would be no more than 10% more than whatever the job initial offer is usually a pretty good indicator. Just because usually that salary range is usually anywhere from like 10 or 15% higher. You can maybe go up to, because they need to have a certain amount that you can get up to in terms of every year of evaluations. But I would say 10% rules a good match for it. Don't be afraid to ask. If they say no, it's just no. Usually the offer's still out there. You're fine. So don't be afraid to ask that. Easier ones to ask, I would say, is again asking for relocation assistance. That's an easy one, because especially if you're 2, 3 states over, or who knows, maybe around the world or something, you have to go for this particular position. That's an easier ask because you can really explain the reason behind it. You can say, hey, I live 3 states over. That's 16-hour drive. I have a small car. I can't really fit everything all at once. Like it's going to be a struggle finding an apartment and everything. Is there any way you can help? So that's an easy ask for most companies to understand where you're coming from, and it can help you out there. Especially if you have a family, if you're further down your career, it's even easier. So I'd definitely say keep that in mind when you're negotiating with these types of roles. But again, keep in mind, don't be asking for the moon and everything when it comes to salary. A lot of times, asking for other things is a better approach long term for the company too, because they want to make sure that you're not just there just for the money, but also, hey, I'm there for maybe further education. That's a good one to ask always. For tuition reimbursement, things like that always can kind of help to kind of keep you on the right track there. But I'll open it up for questions. But those are some key takeaways. But any particular questions you want answered for maybe other types of roles or situations that I can actually answer a little bit more in detail.
Oh, we got a lot of questions coming through here.
And that's good. Let me get to the question portion, because I'll also have my contact info for people to actually use.
All right. A lot of participation today. Thank you so much, everyone. A lot of good questions as well. So let's see. First one. How do recruiters view candidates who refuse to give salary expectations?
Oh, great question. Yeah. Again, salary expectations, the reason why, you need to know the reason why we ask this. So we ask this question, it's not to lowball you, it's to understand whether you're out of our price range. What I mean by that is, if we ask you and the role is it between 60 and 70,000, but you say, hey, I would have to have 90K to come in, we wouldn't move forward with the interview because it's wasting everyone's time. It's not in the price range. That's why they ask you that. It's not to lowball you. Again, it's more so, can we even afford the candidate? Are they in the range? Are we wasting everyone's time? That's their job to do that. So don't be afraid to ask or answer that honestly. But also, again, that's why I tell people before you get into the application process, even have a general idea of what that state would offer. If it's already posted the salary range, even better, because then you already know the range before you even apply. So you should already be aware of that. But great question.
Awesome. And I'll kind of bounce back to the new questions here just to give everyone time for their questions. Next one here, my main concern is that the current job market is not favorable for job seekers. I struggle with not wanting to ask for too much because if their second choice is willing to accept less, they might withdraw my offer. Do you have any advice on this?
Great question. Again, I think the job market, yes, it is tight, and this always ebbs and flows. So when it becomes an employee market, they get to pretty much ask as much money as they want, right? And when it comes to an employer market, there's less jobs than what people would want, essentially supply and demand problem. I would say if it's a fair offer, it's okay to accept it, but asking a little bit more is not the worst thing in the world either, as long as it's in that 10% rule, because they picked you for a reason. Most of the time when we pick people, it's because we want the best, especially if the company wants to be great. It's not because we're trying to nickel and dime you, because at the end of the day, if we think you're good and the top candidate, we want to keep you and we want you. So asking a little bit more, as long as it's within a reasonable amount, isn't a big ask. So I wouldn't worry about that necessarily, because if they picked you, they definitely think you're the top talent for that.
Yep. And echoing what Aaron said, usually they're going to go with their top candidate and extend an offer first. So you don't have to worry that they're doing two at a time, especially if it's just for a head count of one. If you're asking and it's something they can't meet, it's okay for you to take a little bit of time to review. And then, usually we look for 100%, what we like and our needs, but a lot of times, like you said, in this job market too, kind of evaluating what's important, down the road. Do they have opportunities for you to grow in salary or promotions and things like that? So other ways that you can evaluate and consider as well. Next question here. Are there resources that we could go to learn more about what type of questions to ask for each of the positions?
Oh yeah. Well, it depends on what you want to know. If you just want general, let's say, interview questions, you can Google that and just get a basic idea for practice purposes. If it's questions in terms of negotiating, I would say the same basic stuff's going to play in line with all the positions. It just depends on company a little bit, because not every company is going to offer the same benefits. That's why during the interview process, usually you'll have an interview with HR and they'll hand you a benefits packet. If they don't ask for it, I would, because that can really be the edge on knowing what they have to offer and what you can and can't ask for. Because if they don't have pet insurance, of course, you're not going to ask for anything about pet insurance. But if they have some other type of benefit in there that you're curious about or like to know more about, that you could ask and get more detail on. So definitely get that benefit package. Don't be afraid to ask that, or other types of random benefits that you might be interested in. If tuition reimbursement is a huge thing for you, ask it in the interview when they ask you, hey, what questions you have? Because you'll want to make sure if they do have that benefit, maybe you can find out timeline for that. Will you be eligible like within 6 months, or is it a year or 2 years? Like every company's a little bit different. Or is it 100% covered, or is it only 50% covered? And how long do you have to stay with the company to have them fully cover it? Because some have a stipulation where you got to stay with them for 5 years to have them fully cover your master's degree. You'll want to make sure you ask those questions. Okay. Devil's in the details, as they say.
Thanks, Aaron. Next one here. What parts of compensation are easiest to negotiate besides base pay? I know you mentioned relocation. It's a good one. Are there any others for them to consider?
Yeah. Relocation also goes in line with just a sign-on bonus. So you could, if there's no reload for you really, or it's not that far, I would just ask for a sign-on bonus. Hey, can I get a $5,000 sign-on bonus or something? And again, you can kind of Google that and get a little bit of an idea there, but it's harder to get that data because it doesn't have to be reported to the government really as much. Like for tax purposes, it would, but it's not reported in terms of like employment data. So that's a little bit harder to find accurate information on. But yeah, I would say if you don't have a relocation bonus you can't get, just ask for a sign-on bonus. That's pretty common for a lot of roles to get maybe $2,000 or $3,000 or something. And that can help a lot too. And they're more willing to do a sign-on bonus because again, that's a one-time check. They're not adding 5,000 onto your pay every year. It's easier for them to just say, yeah, 3,000 is not a big deal. So
Another one here. Some advice I recently came across was to accept any offer for a beginner role with little to no negotiation. Then look for a new role after a year or two and negotiate more then. Is that still valid advice?
it kind of depends. I would say it depends on what you want. If you just want experience and things like that, that's fine. And you don't have to negotiate every offer. You know, if you think it's a fair offer, it's fine just to say just to accept two. I don't want you to feel like, oh, I gotta negotiate every little thing. No, that'd probably be a little much. Um, so that's perfectly fine. Just saying, hey, I want to accept the offer and maybe just work there for a couple of years and gain experience. And then that way, your next role, you had more leverage. But also think of it like it's good practice in general just to ask the question because all of us feel uncomfortable asking those questions because you're like, I don't want to come off too pushy or this or that. Um, so you could go either way. It's perfectly fine just saying, hey, I'm going to wait and just gain that experience and wait until that next role potentially. But just make sure that you are gaining good experience. Don't just take a role just because the salary is really high. Some people will do that and they kind of pigeonhole themselves into a role that they don't really see themselves in that type of industry or that type of role 5, 10 years later, and they're gaining experience in something that they're going to hate. So be careful about that too, where you accept an offer. You got to kind of think where you'd like to see yourself 5, 10 years from there. But also, I know it's hard when you're first getting started because how do you know what you like and dislike if you haven't done an internship or a co-op? So, but keep that in mind when you're accepting offers.
Next one here. Does the negotiation look different if you're applying for an internal transfer within the same company?
Yeah, great question. I'm actually I should add a slide on internal transfers or internal um I guess overall interviews as well as like job offers and things like that. So for those types of situations, it's definitely less negotiable, I would say, just because a lot of that's going to be usually a lot of companies have like maybe a 10% increase or something. You can still ask for more, but it's a little less so common. It's more set in stone standardized, if that makes sense for roles. Um, but as you get up higher in companies, you have more leverage too. So keep that in mind. I didn't really touch on this. I just did entry level roles because it's a little bit easier to do. But as you get into like maybe a director position or a VP position, it's pretty common for companies to offer them. They'll pay for their car. Like they'll give them a car and they'll pay the insurance. They pay everything for it pretty much. Or they'll pay maybe for your housing part of the time if you travel a lot as a VP or something. Sometimes that's a really big perk too, that if you commute in their main office, you have to be there. Maybe there's an apartment that gets paid for. Again, that's higher level position type of things, but I didn't want to get too in the weeds there just because there's a lot of different things that you can negotiate as you go up in your career. But yeah.
Awesome. Let's see here. If you were job hunting today, how would you negotiate differently?
Oh, that's a good question too. I like that. How would I negotiate differently? Um, I would worry less about the money, and that's what I think too many young people or too many people in general worry too much about dollar amounts. You really want to build your skill set out. That's really what you want to target. So, what's your end goal? What is your end goal in terms of what you want to achieve 10 years from now? What skills are you trying to build? So look for the type of job that's going to build those skills because then it'll be easy to transition into that role that might already have a higher salary cap than ever before, and you don't even have to worry about negotiating. That's what I would look for. Look for what you're trying to build in terms of skill set and what's your end goal in terms of where you want to be 5, 10 years from there. Because that's more important than any dollar amount. Because you might sign on and get a job that pays maybe 6 figures right out of the gate, right? But maybe it does not teach you the skill set that you need for a management role or a director role or any of this. And it's just a job that pays a lot of money, but you're stuck and you don't have any future path, so to speak. So be careful with that too. Sometimes you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot early on and not allowing yourself to have opportunity later.
Mhm. That's great. Thanks, Aaron. And then we'll take this last one here. What does a negotiation look like for an internship?
Oh, yeah. Most internships are going to be very flat dollared. And what I mean by that is a lot of companies, we do tons of internships, okay, and co-ops, right? So how we do it is we usually just have a set dollar amount and there's no negotiation. Now, every company's different. I don't want to say every company's the same, but that's usually what most do because if you have to hire 100 interns over the course of a year for that summer rotation, you don't want to be nickel and diming with them. You just want to be able to say, hey, here's the offer. You have 3 to 7 days, depending on the time frame. Some do as little as 3 days to decide. Some will give you a full week. But a lot of times they just want to kind of keep things rolling because they don't have time to negotiate all the time for an internship or co-op. It's not as high stakes for the company, so to speak.
That's a great question. Thank you, Aaron. And I know we had a lot other questions. We'll make sure to follow up. And I did drop your LinkedIn in the chat as well, so you are more than welcome to connect with Aaron. We'll make sure to reach back out here to answer the rest of these questions, but very, very good questions, very great engagement. I think the big thing is doing your research. You know, a lot is available online. So if you have questions about things like equity offerings or pay gaps, you know, if you look for the position along with that state, what that entry level or that mid-range level should be starting at, that gives you information to negotiate. If they're giving you, you know, an offer that's fair, or if, according to your research, if it's low, and then how to go about that. So we'll make sure here to follow up with an email. It'll have the recording. I also dropped the survey link in there as well. It's just 2 questions. So feel free to fill that out for us. But out of respect for time, you know, we'll go ahead and conclude and wrap up today's session. Thank you everyone so much for joining us and for all of the great questions and great engagement. We hope today's conversation helped you feel a little bit more confident in navigating salary and compensation discussions. Like I mentioned, keep an eye out for that email there. It'll have the recording along with that feedback survey. And then, of course, we like to extend a big WGU thank you to Aaron for your time and joining us and sharing such a fun, insightful presentation. It's always such a great time to have you here with us, and we so appreciate your support. Thank you again, everyone. We hope to see you at upcoming sessions, and stay safe and warm this weekend, and take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.